Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Az, also known as Aaron or Azamon on this particular channel. Today I'm going to be going through my Damia Sage of Stone deck tech. I've done this a few times. Damia is a sick commander. She is a awesome card draw engine. As long as you can protect her and dump your hand all the time, you can just draw a fistful of cards every turn, which is just absolutely ridiculous, especially in this deck because it is all interaction, as you will come to see. So yes, so Damia, Sage of Stone, is a Sultai commander. She is a 4/4 legendary Gorgon wizard. She costs blue, green, black, and 4. And she's a 4/4 Death Touch, and she says, skip your draw step. Which is bad, you might think. But at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have fewer than 7 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference. So, as I said, if you've got a way to just continuously dump your hand, you're going to be able to draw a huge fistful of cards every single turn when it rolls back round to you. And in this deck, the idea is to just keep spell slinging, keep playing interaction, and just refilling your hand, just ultimately killing the opponents in a war of attrition, as well as some big splashy value creatures as well to seal the deal at the end. So yeah, massive fan of this deck. It's full of interaction. It's probably one of my stronger decks, even though it only has a budget of $353 as of recording. So I'll link the description, to the deck, link the deck list in the description box below where you can go and have a look. So because of the nature of this channel, I just literally like to stream in front of a camera, so I don't have the graphics come up as I used to do on the Pass a Turn channel, but it's just more of a discussion, more of a just a quick fire deck tech. So every deck tech needs to have a form of ramp. So first of all, we have a Soul Ring, basically 1 mana artifact that taps for 2. What else do you need? We've got Talisman of Resilience. So this is a 2-drop, and it taps to add colourless, or it can tap to add black or green, but it deals 1 damage to you. So it's a nice little 2-drop artifact there for Golgari. Next we have, similar to that, Talisman of Curiosity. Again, 2-drop, taps for colourless, or it can tap to add green or blue, but it does 1 damage to you. Another 2-drop artifact, we have Arcane Signet. So it taps to add any of the Sultai colours, because that's the colour of our commander's colour identity. So that's nice. We have a Farseek. So there's a lot of 2-drops in here. A lot of 2-drop ramp spells. So green and 1 for a sorcery. Search your library for a plains, island, swamp, or mountain, and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. And this is great in this deck because you do have a lot of those dual lands that count as either. So you can get a lot of colours with that. And then we have a Rampant Growth, which is simply just search library for a basic land, put it onto battlefield tapped for green and 1, which is lovely. Next we have a Cura's Follower, which I like to count as ramp because it untaps another target permanent. So yeah, green and blue for a Merfolk 2/2, which can untap another target permanent. So if it stays around long enough, it can sort of double up your mana sources or artifacts or what have you. So I've counted it in the ramp category. I just like to include a few creatures here and there, just because this deck doesn't really have much board state, because it's a lot of interaction spells until late game. So yeah, that's why I thought I'd include that in there. Similar to that, we have Calling Oracle, another green-blue card. Snake Elf Druid. When it enters the battlefield, you search your, you reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, you draw it, basically. So yeah, nice. It could work as either a little draw spell, little refresher, or it could ramp you potentially. So yeah, nice little effect on a body there. And I was thinking of putting Growth Spiral in here, which is basically the same thing, but I think I opted for that as a result because I don't really need too many draw a card, play additional land sort of effects because it's not really landfall. But yeah, I just thought I'd have that effect on a body instead rather than having Growth Spiral. Next we have a Worn Power Stone, so basically a 3-drop artifact, comes into battlefield tapped, but it taps to add 2 mana. Next we have the Cultivate and Kodama's Reach package, so they both do exactly the same thing. So it costs a green and 2 to search library for 2 lands, put 1 to battlefield tapped and 1 into your hand, which is nice. Search for Tomorrow, another 3-drop, costs 1 green and 2 others. Search library for a basic land, put it onto battlefield and shuffle your library, but you can suspend it on your first turn for green mana, which is nice. Next, we have a Vastwood Surge. So this is the sort of explosive vegetation type card, but I thought this one just has more value in it late game. So Vastwood Surge is 1 green and 3 for a sorcery. And it says search library for up to 2 basic lands, put 1 to battlefield, tap and shuffle your library. It does have a kicker cost as well, so if you choose to kick it for 4 extra mana, you put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. So I thought that's pretty good as a late game spell. A lot of these cards in here will have sort of double utilization, especially when we get to the sort of removal spells and interaction cards of the deck. But yeah, that on itself is not just land ramp late game and just filling your deck out, but it also is pumping your entire team. And believe me, there's a lot of big creatures in this deck already, so when you pump them even further, they can get massive. Speaking of which, we do have a huge creature that does appear in the ramp category, and that is Arixmethes, the Slumbering Isle, one of my favourite sea creatures of all time. And you can go and see the sea creatures list. Actually, no, you won't see that on there. You probably also, yeah, you probably will see that on there actually. But yeah, so green, blue, and 2 for a legendary creature Kraken. It's a 12/12, but when it enters the battlefield, with 5 slumber counters on it. So it's basically asleep when it enters the battlefield. And whenever you cast a spell, you remove a counter from it. When the last counter is removed, he is then a 12/12 Kraken. But as long as he has a counter on it, it is a land. So when it is a land, it taps add green and blue. So again, it can count as ramp, but then late game, later on, it can awaken and just hit people for 12 damage, which is just absolutely ridiculous. And finally, in the ramp category, we have Urban Evolution, which sort of, again, double utilization, doubles up as a card draw spell as well. So draw 3 cards, you can play an additional land this turn. So yeah, green, blue, and 3 for that sorcery. So yeah, quite a mixture of ramp cards, but again, some of them do have that double utilization on there as well, which is what I like in this Damia deck, is that there's so many different options that you can have. Lovely. A quick category here before we go into other things is value from spells. So in this deck, we're going to get into so many different sort of spells, instant sorceries, that you just want to be casting to dump your hand so you can refill with Damia. And 2 cards in this deck that interact with spell dumping or spell casting is Talrand, the Sky Summoner, and Rashmi, Eternity's Crafter. So these are 2 little legendary creatures that just give you so much value when you're casting your spells and dumping your hand. So first of all, Talrand is a creature that's been reprinted so many times. Poor guy. But yeah, 2 blue and 2 others for a legendary Merfolk Wizard. It's a 2/2. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you get a 2/2 Drake with flying. So there's going to be a lot of instants in this deck, a lot of sorceries in this deck that will just get you exponential value if Talrand is out. So I always like to see Talrand come out in this deck because you know you're going to be getting a lot of Drakes. All of your spells then turn in for 2-for-1s. You're removing something on the other side of the board, creating a Drake, which can then attack later. It's just awesome value in the deck, and that's Talrand, Sky Summoner. And of course, the other one what I was mentioning is Rashmi, Eternity's Crafter. So this is brilliant as well because you're running a lot of instants in the deck, so you can potentially do this on every single person's turn because you're going to have a hand chock-a-block full of cards. So yeah, she is a legendary elf druid. She's a 2/3, and she costs 4 as well, similar to Talrand, but this is green, blue, and 2. So Simic. Whenever you cast your first spell each turn that is, so it can work on other people's turns, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a non-land card with converted mana cost less than that spell's, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. If you don't cast a revealed card, put it into your hands. You don't have to cast it. So if you potentially cast something that then you reveal a counter spell on the top of your library, you put that counter spell into your hand. People know that you're going to have a counter spell, and obviously you can play that counter spell on someone else's turn, and therefore sort of cascade-esque onto something else with Rashmi. So Rashmi is brilliant, and both her and Talrand actually can pilot sort of counter spell decks and just get so much value out of it. And there's a lot of counter spells in here, which we'll go into probably now, actually, because obviously we've just covered the fact that it interacts with counter spells quite a lot. So there's quite a few counter spells, but all of these spells count as single target removal. Every single one of them counts as single target removal. So it's just brilliant. There's so much interaction in this deck, and the way you win really is just winning through a war of attrition. You counter all of your opponent's best things, or you remove all of your opponent's best things, and hope that the huge value creatures that you have in the deck will ultimately claim you the victory. Because Damia is only a 4/4 Death Touch, so she's really just the enabler of the entire deck, whereas the big creatures and the big value creatures in the deck are the ones that will ultimately swing and win you the game. So, yeah, let's go into the counter spells now. So, again, a lot of these will have double utilization, which is just brilliant in the deck. So, first we have Soul Manipulation. So, this is a Damia spell. Blue, black, and 1 for an instant. Choose one or both. Counter target creature spell, or return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. So not only does it counter a creature spell, but it also gets back creatures from your graveyard to your hand if you've lost them. So yeah, working as both recursion and counter spells is brilliant. And similar to that, we have Insidious Will, another card that allows you to choose one. So blue, blue, and 2 for an instant. Choose one. Counter target spell. You may choose new targets for target spell, so it acts as single target removal or countering something that's horrible. Protecting your commander, you may choose new targets for target spell, or copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. So again, you've got interaction, protection, and using your own opponent's spells against them. So brilliant card. Again, so much utilization there. I think I did have Sublime Epiphany in the deck at one point, but I think it's just too high costed. Yeah, again, I've got the link into the deck in the description box below, so go and have a look at that and comment if you think this deck should need any sort of changes. But it has working very, very well so far. So carrying on with counter spells, we've got Rewind. So basically a free counter spell because it costs blue, blue, and 2. Counter target spell, untap up to 4 lands. So yeah, you basically just get the counter spell for free if you've got the mana to pay for it, which is brilliant. We've got the standard removal blue blue counter spell, just counter target spell for 2 mana. We've got Void Slime, which is brilliant, blue blue and green. So this counter target spell, activated ability or triggered ability. So any sort of activated or triggered abilities can be countered with this, which is fantastic. Just again, more utilization on the cards. Next we have Silumgar's Command. This is great. Again, choose one. Demir spell. 3 generic, blue and black. Choose 2. Counter target non-creature spell. Oh, choose 2. Sorry, not 1. Counter target non-creature spell. Return target permanent to its owner's hand. Target creature gets -3/-3 at the end of turn. Or destroy target planeswalker. So that's just ridiculous. So many interactions on one card, and you get to choose 2 of them when you play this. So, brilliant card for 5 mana. And finally, we have Plasm Capture. So Plasm Capture is green, green, blue, blue for instant. Counter target spell. At the beginning of your next pre-combat main phase, add X mana in any combination of colours to your mana pool, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. So it's sort of like a mana drain sort of effect. So I definitely can't afford mana drain. So Plasm Capture is a fantastic sort of budget alternative for that. So that's all the counter spells in the deck. Next, we'll go on to just a little recursion package. There's 3 cards in here that do this. So first of all, we've got Balaged Recovery. Just a great card. It has replaced one of the lands in the deck, which is good, and that's what all these MDFCs are great for, is turning your lands into other utilizations later on in the game, which is brilliant. So yeah, Balaged Recovery is green and 2 for a sorcery. It just says return target card from your graveyard to your hand, but if you flip it round, it then becomes Balaged Sanctuary, which enters the battlefield tapped, but it taps to add a green. So yeah, just a fantastic card there. So much utilization yet again. Next we have Eternal Witness, so just a fantastic card in any deck that runs green. Just a body, green, green, and 1 for a Human Shaman, 2/1. When enters, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. So it's just great for getting back those extra other value pieces that go into the grave, or other spells that you only use once. And another recent addition to the deck is Foul Renewal. So this is black and 3 for an instant, and it says return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Target creature gets -X/-X till end of turn, where X is the toughness of the card returned this way. So it not only brings back a creature from your graveyard to your hand, it also can kill something based on the toughness of that creature that you return. So yeah, again, a 2 for 1, which is lovely. Next we have some protection spells in the deck. So obviously we want to protect Damia as much as possible because obviously she is the main engine of the deck. You know, you're slinging a lot of spells, so you are relying on the inherent card draw stapled onto Damia to get your hand back up to 7 every single turn. So you do want to try and protect her as much as you can. So there's quite a few protection cards that will allow you to do that. So first of all, we have the boots. So we have the Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots. So both are 2-drop artifacts that protect your commando. So Lightning Greaves here, this one, sorry. It's all back with front. Lightning Greaves, a quick creature has haste and shroud, so you equip it for 0, so that's brilliant. And then Lightning Greaves, a quick creature has hexproof and haste, equipped for 1. So yeah, just great cards for protecting your commander from single target removal, which is great. Next we have Shielding Plaques. So this is a little enchantment aura, so it costs either green or blue and 2. An enchant creature, when it enters you draw a card, and then it says enchanted creature can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. So again, just gives you hexproof, and then it enters, it replaces itself as well, which is lovely. Next we have 2 charms. We have Golgari Charm and Simic Charm. So again, I've put this in the protection category because this is normally what I use these charms for, but again, they do have other utilizations on the card as well. So Simic Charm, Golgari Charm, first of all, is green and black, and it says choose 1. All creatures get -1/-1 to end of turn, so it can just sort of curb some token strategies going on. Destroy target enchantment, which is great, and regenerate each creature you control. So again, it's great for protecting against Wrath of God sort of effects, regenerating, well, not Wrath of God because they can't be regenerated, but you know what I mean. Regenerate each creature you control is great because it just protects your board from mass removal, which is nice. But it also has all those other utilizations on there as well, like all creatures get -1/-1 or destroy target enchantment. So yeah, the charms are awesome in the deck. And again, similar to that, we have Simic Charm, which is green and blue, instant, choose 1. Target creature gets +3/+3 instead of turn. Probably don't really use that, but you potentially could use it late game. Permanents you control gain hexproof instead of turn, which is brilliant. And then return target creature to its owner's hand. So there's 2 forms of protection on there. You can give all of your permanents hexproof instead of turn, or you can return your target creature to its owner's hand. That can either be Damia, that can either be something that enters and destroys something, or it can be Eternal Witness. So yeah, just a nice little card to have in there because it synergizes with loads of other aspects of the deck. So yeah, that was a protection package. Oh no, we have one more card, Heroic Intervention. Brilliant card. Green and 1, permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So yeah, it just protects against board wipes, it protects against single target removal, it protects your lands from being destroyed, and believe me, we need that in this meta, in the pass a turn extended universe meta. But yeah, so yeah, Heroic Intervention, brilliant card. Next we have some Planeswalkers in the deck. There's 3 of them. So we have 2 Vraskas and 1 Ob Nixilis. So Ob Nixilis is a lovely little card. So yeah, black and 3 for a Planeswalker Nixilis. Starts with 5 loyalty. The +1, you can draw a card and lose a life. So that's cool. -3 is just simply destroy target creature. And then -8 is target opponent gets an emblem with whenever a player draws a card, you lose 2 lives. So it's a good way of draining someone out later on in the game if needed. But it's mainly on there for the card draw and single target removal. Next we have Vraska the Unseen, just an absolute classic. So black, green and 3 for a legendary Planeswalker Vraska. Again, starts on 5 loyalty. The +1 is until your next turn, whenever a creature deals damage to, combat damage to Vraska, destroy that creature. So she does protect herself in a way where she sort of deters combat against her, because whatever's swinging in at her will die as a result. So yeah, so that's pretty cool. The -3 is what we normally use her for. Destroy target non-land permanent. So yeah, it can just get rid of any sort of pesky non-land permanents, which is great. And then the -7 is a game ender, potentially. So create 3 1/1 Black Assassin creature tokens with whenever this player deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. So again, so much utilization on Planeswalkers, and these ones, at the end, their ultimates will close out the game if you manage to sort of resolve them. And lastly, we have Vraska Relic Seeker, which I've ultimated, I think, 3 times. So it's such a great card. But yeah, black, green, and 4. For a legendary Planeswalker Vraska. It does cost quite a lot, but again, when you put the Planeswalkers on the board, they put so much pressure on your opponents, which is what we need on this in this deck. It is just pressure, 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 removal, 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 interaction. So yeah, she starts on 6 loyalty. The +2 is create a 2/2 black pirate creature token with menace. So that's good. So they always say that the best planeswalkers can protect themselves. This one does do that in the form that she creates creatures for her to block. -3 is also very, very good in this deck. So destroy target artifact, creature, or enchantment, and then create a colourless treasure token. So obviously treasure can be cracked for any mana of any colour, which is great. So sort of pseudo ramp on there as well, albeit you probably wouldn't need to ramp at this point because you've got 6 mana available to you. But then the -10 is awesome. Just says target player's life total becomes 1. So doesn't quite kill them, just puts them at a very manageable state. So that's Vraska Relic Seeker. So, couple little cards here. 2 enchantments that are in the deck, just for a little bit of sort of card advantage, card selection. Monastery Siege and Sultai Ascendancy. So Sultai Ascendancy, first of all, is a nice little Sultai enchantment, green, black, and blue. So 3 CMC, or 3 mana value. It says, at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put any number of them into your graveyard, and the rest on the top of your library in any order. So it just allows you to sort of filter the top 2 cards of your library, which is brilliant with Damia, because you obviously want to be selecting what cards you draw. So you can put any number of them in your graveyard as well, or on top in any order. You don't have to put them into the graveyard, which is great. So if they're great cards, you can just reorder them in the way that you want. But if they're lands or something late game, you can just chuck them away. So yeah, just a great card early on. Late game and early on to filter what you need. Another card that I want to put in here, but haven't found a space for it yet, is Abundance. Which basically says whenever you would draw a card, instead name land or non-land, and you go get a card of that sort of stature. So you can just filter your draws even more. So maybe one of these cards could be changed here and there, just to see what the sort of the verdict is on that. Maybe Sultai Ascendancy could come out for Abundance potentially. We'll see. But next card is great because it's double utilization. We've got Monastery Siege, which is blue and 2 for an enchantment. When it enters, choose Khans or Dragons. So if you choose Khans at the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card, then discard a card. So it's good for early game. While Damia is not on the field, it's great for drawing cards and getting card selection, card advantage, in the sense that you can just filter cards from your deck and chuck away cards in your hand that are potentially not good right now. So yeah, early game it's great because it gives you that little bit of sort of card selection early on. But then if you choose Dragons late game, when Damia is out, spells your opponent's cast that target you or a permanent you control cost 2 more. So again, early game you want to be choosing Khans, late game you want to be choosing Dragons to protect all of your creatures. So yeah, double utilization. So I think Sultai Ascendancy could probably be changed to Abundance in a sort of different iteration of this. Next we have 2 cards interact with people's graveyards. Because obviously graveyards are a massive popular thing. So we got Scavenging Ooze and Mnemonic Betrayal. So Scavenging Ooze is just a nice little creature, so it's green and 1 for an ooze. It's a 2/2 from M21. And for a green mana, you can exile target card from a graveyard. And if it was a creature, this card gets a +1/+1 counter, and you gain a life. So it's a good way of just sort of scavenging things out of people's graveyards, just removing problematic threats that you think that might come back or might get interacted with in the graveyard. So having a bit of graveyard hate in here is good. So yeah, that's why it's in there. That makes a creature. It can block and it can grow if you do exile the correct things. So yeah, it could also be quite good late game also if you've pumped it up quite a lot. And next we have a Mnemonic Betrayal. So this is a great card for casting cards in people's graveyards that you like, that you don't really normally have access to. So this is a sorcery. It's a mythic rare from Return to Ravnica, I think. Or Guilds of Ravnica, sorry. So blue, black, and 1 for a sorcery. And it says exile all cards from all opponents' graveyards. You may cast those cards this turn, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast those spells. At the beginning of the next end step, if any of those cards remain exiled, return them to their owners' graveyards and exile Mnemonic Betrayal. So it's just a way of basically exiling everything from everyone's graveyard, picking the spell that you want to cast from their graveyard, and casting it, which is quite good. But it is probably one of those cards. I mean, the Graveyard Hate package could probably come out at some point. It's just, I know that in my meta there are a few graveyard tactics going around, so I do need to have something in this deck which can combat that. This is basically a silver bullet deck to combat all manner of different threats. So it doesn't really have a game plan. It really is just about sort of countering and interacting big threats and stopping your opponents from doing absurd things, and then ultimately trying to grind out the game with big creatures. So we'll get into those big creatures in a moment. So the next category is board wipes before we go into all the interaction spells. So first of all, we have the Elder spell. So this is black, well, just black actually for a sorcery. Destroy any number of target planeswalkers. Choose a planeswalker you control. Put 2 loyalty counters on it for each planeswalker destroyed this way. So again, we've got 3 planeswalkers in the deck. So if we've got a board full of super friends, we can destroy them all, put all of those loyalty counters onto one of my planeswalkers, and then ultimate. So, yeah, just a great sort of silver bullet card for decks that are running a lot of planeswalkers. That's the Elder spell. Next, we have one of my favourite board wipes, and that's Gaze of Granite, just because it can deal with everything. So, yeah, this is a great card. So, black, green, and X for a sorcery. Destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X or less. So, it's a selective board wipe. And when you're casting it late game, you're normally casting it for about 6 CMC, so you're destroying everything apart from Damia, because Damia costs a hefty 7 mana. So if you pump 6 mana into this, which will ultimately cost you 9 mana, you can wipe the board and still have Damia in play to draw your fistful of cards next turn. So again, just a great board wipe in this deck because it is a selective board wipe. Next we have Aether Snap. So again, just a weird board wipe that deals with token strategies and counter strategies. So yeah, this is black, and 3 for a sorcery. Remove all counters from all permanents and exile all tokens. So yeah, it destroys all planeswalkers. All planeswalkers just cease to exist, and all tokens just cease to exist. So again, it was just a fantastic utilitarian board wipe that I've got in here. But again, silver bullet deck. It's just going to have a bit of everything. Next we have Nightmare Unmaking. So this is an exile-based board wipe. So black, and 3 for a sorcery. You can choose one of these modes. Exile each creature with power greater than the number of cards in your hand, or exile each creature with power less than the number of cards in your hand. So you've got quite a different spectrum on each mode there. So basically this card reads exile each creature with power greater than 7, or each creature with power what am I talking about? I'm not spitting garbage. Exile each creature with power less than 7. Well, not 7, 6, because obviously when you cast this, you're going to have 6 cards in hand. So yeah, it's going to be either less than 6 or greater than 6, this reads. So yeah, it can just exile some absolutely awesome things, either on the lower end or the higher end. So yeah, great card for exiling things. Speaking of exiling things, you've got another card that does that, Perilous Vault. So this is a 4-drop artifact, and you can pay 5 and tap it and exile it to exile all non-land permanents. So again, just another way of just resetting the board if it is getting out of hand, because it does become quite difficult to handle every single player's board state when you're only interacting at one spell at a time. But that's why these other cards come into effect as well. But normally you can select what cards, obviously, you want to get rid of, what cards you can interact with, what cards would actually be dangerous to you, in a sense. So yeah, I just think it's these board wipes are still needed in there. Next we have Bane of Progress, the last board wipe in the deck. So this is green, and 4 for a 2/2 elemental creature. When it enters the battlefield, destroy all artifacts and enchantments, and put a +1/+1 counter on Bane of Progress for each thing destroyed this way. So yeah, again, if there's loads of enchantments, loads of artifacts out, you play this, destroys all of those, and this becomes a huge creature as a result. So again, a nice little way of then utilising a huge creature on the end, which can just smack people in the face, which is lovely. Coffee's getting a bit cold now, so you just have to bear with me. Again, if you think any cards need to change, drop a comment in the section below. Make sure you like the video. If you're liking the video, great. Make sure you subscribe as well. That would be fantastic. And go check out my other channel as well, Past the Turn. It's a little bit quiet at the moment because obviously the sort of backbone of our channel is stripped away because we can't go anywhere, we can't meet anyone because of COVID, so we can't do any of that. But yeah, definitely go and check that out when you can. So next we have all of the removal spells in the deck, and yeah, there's quite a few interactions in the deck that you can come to expect. So we'll go into those now. So this is the backbone of the deck, really, just interacting with people's spells, and we would have already interacted a load with people's spells because of all the counter spells that we've had, all the other cards that say choose one. So we've already got loads of interaction, but this is the meat of the interaction here. So first of all, we've got Sultai Charm. So a nice flavourful card. It says black, green, and blue for an instant, and it just says choose one. Destroy target mono-coloured creature. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, or draw 2 cards and discard a card. So you've got removal on there for pretty much anything, and you've got card draw on there for 3 mana. So it's just so situational. It just does what you want at the time that you need it. So fantastic card there. Next we have Casualties of War. This is a single target removal spell, but for each type of permanence, basically. So black, black, green, green, and 2 for a sorcery. Choose 1 or more. Destroy target artifact, destroy target creature, destroy target enchantment, destroy target land, and destroy target planeswalker. So again, just gets rid of everything that is causing an issue on the board. Albeit it's not everything on the board, but it is those certain targets that are being absolutely ridiculous. Casualties of War destroys everything. So yeah, brilliant. Next we have Death Sprout. This is great because it doubles up as ramp as well. So black, black, green, and 1 for an instant. Destroy target creature, and then search your library for a basic land card and put it onto battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. So this is a card that has double utilization. And there is another card that was released with Kaldheim recently called Binding the Old Gods, which does a similar effect to this, but it just takes longer to do. You could argue that Binding the Old Gods is better because it destroys a non-land permanent. Rather than just a creature, but you get both effects on one cast, whereas with Binding the Old Gods it takes a little bit longer, and someone could even remove the ramp effect on the Old Gods. So it could probably go in here as a replacement. I might try it at some point, but I think Death Sprout's good because obviously it does both effects straight away, which is good. And I've got a load of other removal in here which does other things. So it's nice to have both of those effects on one card rather than waiting for it. Next we have Reality Shift. So this is blue and 1 for an instant. And it just simply says exile target creature. Brilliant. Its controller manifests the top card of his or her library. So that player then puts the top card of his or her library onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2. So it morphs. If it is a creature card, it can be turned face up any time for its mana cost. So yeah, just a great way of just dealing with a problematic creature. Albeit it could morph into a bigger threat later. But again, you're all about dealing with the threat as it's sort of presented to you. Next we have Maelstrom Pulse. So again, probably why Binding the Old Gods doesn't appear in here is because they've got other effects like this, which just simply say destroy target non-land permanent and all other permanents with the same name as that permanent. So yeah, it can either just destroy something that's getting in your way with regards to an enchantment, artifact, creature, all that sort of stuff. And if you're dealing with a army of tokens, it can just wipe out that entire token army because it's all other permanents with the same name. So yeah, that's good. And it's black, green, and 1. So excellent card. Next we have Croson Grip. Just a brilliant card that can't be interacted with because of split second. So green and 2 for an instant. Split second. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. So they can't respond to that if that's on the stack. So unlucky. Next we have Rex Age. Just a great card in green decks for dealing with pesky artifacts and enchantments. Green and 2 for a creature, Elf Shaman. It's a 2/1 when it enters. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. So yeah, brilliant. Next we have Feed the Swarm. Nice little addition from Zendikar Rising. Black and 1 for destroy target creature or enchantment and opponent controls. You lose life equal to that permanent's converted mana cost. So it does bolt you for dealing with a threat, but it's 2 mana, which is pretty good. Next we have Ruinous Path. So this is black, black, and 1 for a sorcery. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. So again, double utilization as to what you can do on there. But it also has Awaken as well. So if you have loads of extra mana late game, you can awaken one of your lands for 7 mana instead. If you cast it for black, black, and 5, you also put 4 +1/+1 counters on target land, and it becomes a 0/0 elemental creature with haste. which is still a land. So again, you can just reanimate one of your, well, not reanimate, but animate one of your lands to start hitting face late game, which is nice. We have Acidic Slime in here, so green, green, and 3 for a creature ooze. So it's a 2/2 with Death Touch, so it trades with any creature on the floor, which is nice. So it can act as a removal spell in a way if you do block something, you can kill it straight away. But when it enters, it also destroys target artifact, enchantment, or land. So it can get rid of like Cabal Coffers and any sort of horrible lands out there that you don't want to see. So yes, Acidic Slime, nice little card. And we have also Dragon Lord Silumgar. This is a great creature. So a 3/5 flying Death Touch, Elder Legendary Dragon. It costs blue, black, and 4. But when it enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature or planeswalker for as long as you control Dragon Lord Silumgar. So as long as Dragon Lord Silumgar is out, you're going to gain control of something permanently, which is absolutely outrageous. You could probably put other cards in here, like Agent of Treachery, and I think that was in an old iteration of the deck, and just gaining control of things. But I like the theme that Damia is a Gorgon. You know, she looks at things and kills them most of the time. That's what Gorgons do. This coffee's getting really cold now. Nice. And finally, the last sort of interaction card in the deck is Castdown. So just 1 black and 1 other. Just says destroy target non-legendary creature at instant speed, and it's a shiny as well, so that's good. So yeah, that's all the interaction in the deck. So we've gone through the interaction spells, we've gone through the removal, not the board wipe spells. You've gone through some graveyard hate, some card advantage, card selection, planeswalkers, protection, recursion, counter spells, value from casting spells, and ramp. So we've gone through all of those categories. Now we're going to move into what I like to call the sisters of Damia. So all of these are just sexy Gorgons that do some awesome abilities. So again, all of these Gorgons will interact with your opponent's board, but also prove a sort of late game threat because they are still they're quite tough. They're quite big creatures. So yeah, these are the Gorgons, the sisters of Damia, basically. So first of all, we have an awesome card, Hythonia the Cruel. This is just awesome. I absolutely love this card. And if it was in more colours, I probably would try and make a commander of it. Gorgon Tribal could potentially be a good thing for budget EDH, so maybe sort of look out for that in the future. But yeah, black, and 4 for a legendary creature, Gorgon. So it's a 4/6 with Death Touch, which is nice and thematic. And it has Monstrosity 3 on there, so you can pay black, and 6 to Monstrosity 3 it. So if this creature becomes monstrous, put 3/3, put 3 plus some counters on it. And it simply says at the bottom as well, when it becomes monstrous, destroy all non-Gorgon creatures. So it's a board wipe on a creature that then becomes a 7/9, which then becomes a 7/9 after you monstrous it. So after you monstrous it, it's a big 7/9 threat, which can just hit people in the face. So yeah, brilliant card. That's Hythonia the Cruel, one of Damia's sisters. One of other Damia's sisters is Zathrid Gorgon. So I only added this in recently. I took out Arcanus the Omnipotent, which just taps to draw 3 cards. I don't really need to draw cards in this deck. If I have Damia out, I'm going to be doing that quite a lot of the time, so I don't really need Arcanus in there. So Zathrid Gorgon came in to replace Arcanus. So black and 5 for a creature Gorgon, a 3/6 with Death Touch. So again, another creature with Death Touch, and rightly so. It's a Gorgon. You look at it, you die. But the awesome thing on this is that it's got an activate ability on there. So black and 2, and tap it. Put a petrification counter on target creature. It gains Defender and becomes a colourless artifact in addition to its other types. Its activate abilities can't be activated. So that's just quality. You petrify someone's commander, they're doing nothing. They can do nothing for the rest of the game, which is just outrageous. They have to then destroy their own artifact and put it back to the command zone, or they have to destroy their own creature to potentially get it into their grave so they can reanimate it so it can become a creature again. It's just a awesome mechanic that we haven't seen, really, and it's just so much theme on this card. A petrification counter. That is just utter awesomeness. So one of my favourite cards in the deck is this one. I haven't activated its ability yet. I haven't done it yet in actual game, but hopefully we'll see it at some point. But yeah, Zephyr Gorgon, just brilliant card. All of these cards as well, all of these Gorgon cards, put pressure on your opponents to remove them, because once they start activating, it's just, yeah, ridiculousness. These basically act as planeswalkers, because they can soak up damage, they can be removal sponges, but they can then do different things when they when it comes around to you again. You can uptick them, well, not uptick them, but tap them to do a stupid effect. So yeah, all these creatures do have that interactability on them, which is just makes them so much more deadly, so much more dangerous, so much more of a potential target to remove, which takes the pressure off of other things on your table. It's just brilliant. Every card, every creature or planeswalker in this deck normally does sort of put a sort of pressure on the opponents, which is what I like. Next we have another one of Damia's sisters. We have Sisters of Stone Death. So I actually made a deck with this a while back ago. But yeah, again, another creature that just needs to be interacted with, otherwise it can just run away with it. It costs 8 mana, but you know, when this hits the board, people need to deal that, because otherwise they're just going to run away with the game. So yeah, this costs black, green, and 4 for a legendary Gorgon creature from I think it was this was actually in the Golgari dual deck, I think, or something, but I can't remember what set it was from originally. One of the Ravnica sets, at least. But yeah, it's a 7/5. It has 3 abilities on there. So you can pay green, and target creature blocks Sister of Stone Death this turn if able. So she has a lure effect on her, which makes a creature block her. And you can make multiple creatures block you as well. You just pay a green, they all have to block. The second ability is pay black and green. Exile target creature blocking or blocked by Sisters of Stone Death. So you can make something block Sisters of Stone Death, and then just exile it before it does any damage. But then the last ability is pay a black, pay 2, put a creature card exiled with Sister of Stone Death onto the battlefield under your control, which is just ridiculous. So if you've got loads of mana to sink into this, you can just nick people's creatures late game, or you can just exile them off, or kill them in combat, or make every creature block you so you can swing in with your other big creatures that you've got out already. So it's just loads of different lines of play on this card, and rightly so, for 8 mana. So yeah, just a great card, one of my favourites as well. I do love Gorgons, they're awesome. And finally, the last sister in the last sister of Damia is Visara, the Dreadful, another legendary creature Gorgon. So yeah, black and 3 for a 5/5 flying Gorgon. And it just simply says on there, tap, destroy target creature, it can't be regenerated. So she just looks at something and it dies. Albeit she has to sort of waste her turn tapping to destroy a creature. But again, interactability on creature cards is just awesome, because you can just get these effects over and over and over again every single turn, unless they remove it. So again, you're asking the question of your opponents, do you want this on the board, killing all of your creatures every turn, or do you need to remove it? That's the question that it asks of your opponents. So, really good. So yeah, that was Damia's Sisters, and then Damia's Pet. So Damia has a few sisters, obviously put in a shift for her, but she also has a giant pet, and that is Coma, the Cosmos Serpent. So this is just Damia's Pet. And again, a game ender if you don't deal with it. So Coma Cosmos Serpent, blue, green, and 3. So 7 mana in total. It's a 6/6, and it can't be countered. So it is hitting the board, whether you like it or not. You just then have to deal with it before it starts spawning coils. Otherwise, you're in the shit. So yeah, it can't be countered. At the beginning of each upkeep, create a 3/3 blue serpent creature token named Coma's Coil. And then you can sack another serpent, choose one, tap target permanent, its activated abilities can't be activated this turn, or Coma gains indestructible until the end of turn. So if you do not deal with Coma, as you've probably seen in the Command Zone Game Nights episode where Jacob played with Coma, it can become absolutely ludicrous. And albeit I do not have the cards in the deck that say copy Coma or put copies of Coma into play, it is still a ridiculous card that needs to be dealt with permanently. So it's great. And the fact that it can't be countered as well is a great way of... It's got its own form of protection added in, so it can't be countered, so it does hit the board no matter what. Then your opponents have to then respond to that or destroy that before the upkeep comes around to the next player, because it then just spawns coils, which can make it indestructible or tap down permanents, which can't activate their abilities. So it's just, yeah, a fantastic card. I thought I'd save it to the end because, yeah, Damia's Pet is the absolute beat stick in the deck. But, yeah, again, it's just a deck that relies on lots of removal, lots of big value creatures, as I said there. So you've got all the sisters that go along with Damia. You've got the Coma, the Cosmos Serpent. You've got Dragon Lord Silumgar, which can deal some damage. You've got Origsmithy, Slumbering Isle, which can wake up. You've got Bane of Progress, which can come and destroy everything and get massive. You've got the Planeswalkers that can ultimately ultimate if you win through the War of Attrition and kill players. So the main aim in the deck really is to... cast loads of spells, interact with everything, disrupt your opponent's plans, and ultimately win through War of Attrition and getting out big, valuable creatures towards the end. Or even hitting people with Damia herself for commander damage. It will take quite a while. So 4, 8, 12, 16. It takes 5 hits to kill someone with Damia. But yeah, again, you're ultimately winning through War of Attrition and then getting out some big, valuable creatures late game to seal it off. So yeah, that was the meat of the deck. Obviously, we can go through the lands now. There's quite a few non-basics in here. So let me just take all those out quickly. So I'll go through those with you first, because the basic lands, you know, they're boring, aren't they, really? And obviously you can see the deck list as well in the description box below. So again, feel free to comment as to what this might be missing, what you would change, etc. So let's go through all the non-basic lands. Let's count up the basic lands first. You probably don't give a fuck about this, to be honest, but never mind. I'm just rambling. So yes, we have 5 swamps in the deck. So 5 swamps. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 forests in the deck. So 6 forests. And 4 islands in the deck. All of which have full art, which is nice. So yeah, not many basics. So first of all, we have Clear Water Pathway. Nice little full art version. So this is a Damia land, basically. So you can either play it for the blue side, or you can play it for the black side. So again, these dual face lands are awesome because you can just choose what side you need to play based on the mana that you have available to you, which is lovely. We've got Hinterland Harbour, which is tapped to add green or blue, but it enters tapped unless you control a forest or an island. So most of the time it will enter untapped. You've got Dark Water Catacombs, which is basically like a Damia Signet on a land, so you can pay 1 and tap it to add black and blue to your mana pool. We got Dark Boar Pathway, so this is the Golgari flip land from Kaldheim. So you've got black on one side and green on the other. So that's a nice little card. We've got Temple of Mystery, so it's a green-blue land and it's tapped, but you scry 1, so that's nice for a little bit of insight. Exotic Orchard, which basically acts as one of your colours at the very least. Maybe even 2 or 3 most of the time. Well, basically taps to add any mana of any colour most of the time. So, yeah, definitely good in Commander decks. Yavimaya Coast is a Simic land. Taps to add colourless, or you can pay a green, or you can pay a life. You can tap it and have it deal 1 damage to you to add Simic colours. Sunken Ruins, nice little filter land, so it taps to add colourless, or you can pay a black or a blue into it to add either blue-blue, black-blue, or black-black, so a nice little filterer. We've got Bark Channel Pathway, so that's the other pathway from Kaldheim, which adds either green or blue to your mana pool, depending on what side you choose. So, nice card there. We've got Blooming Marsh, which is a nice little fast land, so it enters untapped if you control 2 or few other lands. So it enters battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or few other lands. Yeah, so if you play this on turn 1 or 2, it enters untapped as a dual land. If you play it after that, it enters tapped. Zagoth Triome, brilliant little card, adds to add any of our colours. It does enter the battlefield tapped, however, but you can cycle it as well late game if you don't need lands, which is quite good. Command Tower, adds any of our colours. Drowned Catacomb, taps to add black or blue, but it enters tapped unless you control an island or a swamp. We've got Flooded Grove, which is the Simic filter land. So yeah, taps to add colourless, or you can pay green or blue into it to add green, 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 blue, or blue, blue to your mana pool. Opulent Palace, basically a Zaggoth Triumph, and it's tapped with no cycling ability. Temple of Malady, enters the battlefield tapped, but obviously you can scry one and add taps to add black or green. Breeding Pool, which is a great card, so it's a forest island, taps to add green or blue, but as it enters, you pay 2 life. If you don't, and it's tapped. Tainted Wood, taps to add colourless, or if you control a swamp, you can tap it to add Golgari, or black or green. We've got Sunken Hollow, which ends the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. So most of the time we will control 2 or more basic lands, so that will come into play untapped. And then we have Scavenger Grounds, which taps to add colourless, or you can pay 2 and tap it and sacrifice it to exile all cards from all graveyards. So I didn't really forgot to mention that we do have another graveyard hate card on the Scavenger Grounds there as well. So Bajuka Bog could potentially go in here as well, but I feel like I've got a lot of tap lands in there, so I haven't put it in there. And then finally we have a reserve list card, Volrath's Stronghold. Just a great card for Recursion. Again, another card that wasn't really mentioned in the Recursion package was this bad boy. So yeah, it taps to add colourless to your mana pool, but then you can pay a black and 1 and tap it to put target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. So that's great for if you got this out, you can let your Damia die and go to the graveyard to then put it back on your library to avoid the command attacks and all that sort of stuff. So you can do that. But then again, you're paying the 2, so yeah, just ignore me. No, that's rubbish. That's rubbish strategy. But yeah, you can put things back on top of your library like the Acidic Slimes and Reclamation Sages and stuff that when it enters, it does stuff like Dragonlord Silumgar. And if any creatures have died, you can just put them back on top of your library and get their effects again. So yeah, just a great card. Reserve list obviously is making it extremely expensive to get, but luckily I did get one 2-3 years ago for about 30 quid. And now it's like 150 odd quid, so that's not bad. But yeah, that is the deck. That is the deck. That is a Damia Sage of Stone deck. And I thought it was going to be a quick video, but I always ramble on. 51 minutes of Damia Sage of Stone. But yeah, I think it's a really, really cool deck, and you can come to expect to see it at some point, whether that's on this channel or on the Pass a Turn channel, whether that's through an EDH game or Pass a Turn Versus, or some other iteration of our streams on the channel as well. But yeah, I just thought I'd share it on this channel just to sort of bring the content up on this channel a bit more. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you like and subscribe and leave a little comment in the section below if you enjoyed the video, or if you know what sort of stuff would you add, what sort of stuff would you take out. Do you have a Damia deck? What does it sort of focus on? Is it based on removal like mine, or is it based on Gorgon Tribal? What is it? Let's see it. So thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you on the next one. Peace.